interest. Any? Declare that closed, and we're going to go into closed session, so we'll depart from here and be back here. We shouldn't be very long, so, but we can't start legally until 4:30 anyway, so thank you.
We begin this meeting by acknowledging that Quinte West is on Indigenous land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. We thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Long before today, there have been Indigenous peoples who have been the stewards of this place. In particular, we acknowledge the traditional territories of the Anishinaabeg, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte First Nation. This territory is covered by numerous treaties. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to this place. We also recognize the contribution of the Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples have made, both in shaping and strengthening this community in particular, and our province and country as a whole. This acknowledgement serves as recognition of the contributions and historical significance of Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island and demonstrates our collective commitment to meet the promises and address the challenges of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission within our community.
I would ask, before I get started today, CAO Clazy to make some comments with respect to our delegations and presentations that we made in Toronto to the Minister of Health and the Administrative Assistant. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the members of council and to the public. Yes, we just got back from the Rural Ontario Municipal Association Conference in Toronto, and we had the opportunity to meet with members of the Ministry of Health, and we certainly brought forward some of the concerns that we have as a municipality that we've heard from some of our doctors around some of the issues as far as attraction and retention of doctors to the area. So we certainly brought those forward, and then the mayor and myself were able to sit in on a couple other delegations with Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and there was one other one where we joined with members of Prince Edward County, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, and Loyalist College and Quinte Health to talk about the Health Pulse group that we have put together in this area and how we're trying to work together to solve some of those healthcare related issues. And I would say overall, we were well received on all those delegations. And just a general comment, I would say the main theme of the conference really was around healthcare, even though it was a municipal conference. Healthcare is certainly on the top of the priority list and agenda for a number of municipalities, and that was very evident at that conference.
Thank you very much. Any other councillors who were there want to make a comment regarding it, or otherwise I'd be glad to indicate that we did make several presentations. We did work with Quinte Healthcare as well as Prince Edward County to let them know that there is a crisis in the healthcare system, and particularly rural Ontario. Even though we may be an urban-rural mix in this city, we still have the crisis here. And what is contributing to the crisis is if you live in a remote area and you drive all the way to the Hastings or to the hospital in Belleville, and you get there and the emergency is closed. That's what's happening throughout the province. There are many places where you drive a long ways thinking you're going to get help, and you get there and it isn't there. So we certainly got our point across. They understand, and they are putting dollars into healthcare, but I think that they're looking at it very carefully to make sure that the dollars are in the right location and help to increase and open up more doctors being not just here, but being registered and available to work for all of us. So that was a good. The other part from my point of view as mayor is to come back here and realize that we have so many good people working in our city in different areas, different parts of our municipality. And I thank you very much. I thank all of you for being there and coming to work every day. And I appreciate that very much. We've got many places in this province don't have that strength, either be it in the fire, the police, or the paramedics. So thanks to all of you for doing your job and doing it well. It sure makes a difference, and it certainly is appreciated. Thank you. Okay, any disclosures of pecuniary interest? I already did that, but we will do it again and declare that closed. Approval of the agenda, please. Councillor McHugh and Councillor O'Neill. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Thank you. Approval of the minutes. Minutes of the special council budget meeting held on January the 8th be approved. And yeah, we'll take that one first. Okay. Moved by Councillor Stedall, seconded by Councillor Card. Any questions or comments? Councillor Stedall.
Just one point of clarification. I'm sorry, I can't bring it up right now with this, but there's a resolution on in regards to the repair of the tennis courts in Sydney Ward with the budget, and I think the clarification needs to be is it's not just for pickleball, but it is for multi-use that we're looking at those particular courts, not just tennis, not just pickleball.
Okay, I didn't obviously read it that carefully, so thank you very much. Yes, it is for general use. That was my opinion
For
too.
multi-use, yeah, just so that the director has got some direction of bringing a report back to council.
But
that
I
it
don't
is for
think it was
multi.
approved, was it? It's in there, but it's something that's got to be.
Mr. Mayor, the previous direction was for Director Angelo to bring a report back, and it specifically talked about pickleball courts, and we're just clarifying the intent is that it's for a multi-use court. So that's what Director Angelo's report will reflect when it comes back.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Clarifies. Councillor Sharp? Councillor Sharp?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to add what Director Clazy said, that Director Angelo will report back, and I think the intent was certainly multi-purpose. There's basketball, there's tennis, there's pickleball, but there would be a report back on how it would be funded. Thank you.
Thank you. CAO Clazy and Director. Yeah, right. I know what you mean. Thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? Any other comments? All in favor? Thank you very much. Okay. The special council minutes, I need that. Did I get a mover and a seconder for that? I did, didn't I? No. Councillor McHugh is one. Councillor Boyce is two for a second. Comments or questions? All in favor? Thank you very much. Okay, I guess I'm at the Director Angelo, Public Works, Environmental Services regarding entering into an, did I miss one?
Delegations and petitions here.
How do I do that? Okay, I have no presentations, I have none, so I'm at public input then. Public input is where I am.
568, Joel Fox, 568 Fox Road. I just wanted to come today and lend my support to decommissioning Hill Road Bridge and not pursuing a replacement. The staff report in the agenda outlined many different options, and I just wanted to add another option, which is to remove the barrier south of Hill Road and route traffic through the subdivision. As Robert outlined to you in the summer, this would result in a 40-second increased time when these property owners were driving north to the 401, but it would subsequently save them that time when they're driving to Walmart or into town. Even with the updated cost of Hill Road Bridge, it would take 35 years of these property owners' tax revenue to be 100% dedicated to this project to cover the cost of the bridge, given that, you know, they still need to cover the cost of operating expenses and other capital projects. I think we can say with reasonable certainty that this project is not a great business case. I think it would lose the city money, and that would commit us down the road to either one of two options, some service cuts or tax increases. There is precedent for decommissioning it. Just last year, the city of Winnipeg decommissioned the Arlington Bridge, which is a 2-lane bridge that serviced thousands of vehicles and pedestrians every year. So, you know, that was a difficult choice that they had to make because the bridge was unaffordable. And likewise, I think Hill Road Bridge is unaffordable considering the context. And I urge the city to vote no on Hill Road Bridge. Additionally, I'd just like to give a book recommendation. In regards to the last item on the agenda, the town of Mono declares road safety emergency. I think a lot of residents in Quinte West feel that the traffic safety has gotten a little bit worse since the pandemic as well. And a lot of council's discussions, the active transportation committee discussions, have centered around speed limit changes, enforcement, speed cameras, and speed bumps. And I think these are all documented to either be fairly ineffective solutions or sometimes even counterproductive solutions. And this book, which I have 5 copies that I'm happy to give to anyone who's interested, you can talk to me afterwards. I think it does a really good job of explaining in layperson's terms some great ways to resolve traffic safety. So if you're interested, just talk to me after the meeting.
You know where where Floodsbridge Road is?
Floodsbridge?
Yeah,
Floodsbridge Road?
Floodsbridge Road. Are you familiar with that bridge?
I've been on it, yeah.
That bridge was one that we had to replace. We did replace it. We were going to dead end the road at the creek, and there were many, many people showed up to tell us not to do that.
Right.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments, or come on up.
Good afternoon. My name is Charles Harns. My wife Sandra and I reside at 256 South Trent Street in Frankfurt. I have a couple of issues that I would like to put forth to City Council. The first concern is regarding this PRISM notification system. Last week, we went without water. I don't know the exact, well, it was from around 8:30 in the morning until I went to bed at 10:30. My wife said it was on at 2:30 when she got up. So, and we were not notified of that the water service was going to be interrupted. If we had known, we might have been able to make some sort of pre-arrangements, maybe fill some buckets with water or whatever, so we could at least flush the toilets, things like that, maybe for a cup of coffee, whatever. Anyhow, on the previous day, that was on Thursday, last Thursday. On Wednesday, our water pressure dropped to 50% for some reason. No idea why. I discovered that at about 4:30 when I was going to make some.
So just before you go any further, were there obviously neighbors affected or impacted?
Everybody, my neighbor to the north, I think they're 252 or whatever. I know they were, and down to the very end by John's equipment there. Yes, we were all affected. I've spoken to 5 other people that, yes, they were definitely affected.
Well, they were doing work in by the arena.
Well, we found out later, I found out later that I went into town and the city crew was working there. There had been a water main leak, or burst, I should say. But being that there was, that happened, they obviously knew about it, and should we not have been notified at some point?
We'll get you an answer.
Sorry?
We'll get you an answer.
Okay, thank you. No,
We'll try to make water work.
Okay, no, fair enough. That's fine. And well, obviously, it's too late for us to be notified, but this might help alleviate disconvenience or inconvenience for people in the future, because I thought that's what that system was designed for. Then I'd just like to take a moment to commend the city employees, because it was a frigid day out there, and they worked there obviously from 8 or so, or 8:30 in the morning till after 10:30. So I would like to commend them for that.
Thank you. I agree with you.
My second issue concerns the R&E tire industry behind our property.
Know where you are.
And their wanton disregard for following Quinte West city bylaws. We moved to our house in 2018. We had a natural barrier behind us. It was great. We never saw them. And about in October 2021, they cleared all the trees and dug what I'm going to refer to as just a big hole in the ground to park their trailers in. And so when they started doing this, I inquired to City Hall, what's going on here? And they were shocked that this was going on because they had no site plan submitted. So technically they shouldn't have touched that to start with. But anyhow, in the meantime, I've spoken to an individual I believe it's the planning department, and I just keep getting the runaround that the site plan was finally submitted, but now all the stakeholders have to review it and send it back for their review and that sort of thing. And that's been, again, as I say, it was October 2021 when this all occurred. In the meantime, I believe the City of Quinte West bylaw requires a barrier between an industrial site and a residential site. I know a person who used to be on some committee that informed me of this, but anyhow, that nothing has been touched with that. We just have it's a wide open space. We have recommended, my wife and I would like to see some cedars or something like that planted. They remove trees. We all know about climate change. Trees absorb CO2, obviously. I don't need to go into the chemistry of it. But replanting trees or cedars that would cover up this mess would be, I think, the way to go. Secondly, I believe there's a bylaw in the city of Quinte West that you cannot allow water to infringe on a neighbor's property. Ever since this company dug this hole, big hole as I call it, every time it rains, the back of our property floods. We've spent a lot of money and a lot of time making our land our property beautiful with flowers and trees and plants, whatever. We're worried it's going to destroy those plants and all our work and money. So there's obviously a drainage problem, and this never happened before. This is since that hole was dug. So there's obviously a drainage problem. So I'm just at a loss, or I'm confused why this individual is being allowed to get around city bylaws and not do what he's supposed to do.
I can't answer, but are you, are you close to where the Nash, I guess you'd say machine shop is located, or?
I don't know who that is.
Don't know that? Okay, all right. Well, then we'll double check,
Yeah.
get an answer.
Well, I live just directly, I guess it would be to the east of this plant. You could, like I said, there was all kinds of vegetation, trees in there. I've since planted some trees myself, but they were little saplings we got from the city, so they all belong in the ground before they're grown up and providing cover. So, again, I know the bureaucratic process is slow, but I think a little over 2 years is a bit much. I think this should have been resolved a long time ago.
Thank you.
Anyhow, that's all I have to say, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyone else for public input? Anyone else for public input? Anyone else? Okay. Haven't got anything else in. Yeah. Committee reports, okay. Oh, how I can get so mixed up. Okay, this first one is Peter Adams. You're on first, Peter. Technology regarding the IT update. Brian, are you doing it, or is
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's just an update report, so.
just an update? That's it, okay, so, need to, staff report 2024-0003 by Peter, Manager IT regarding 24 first quarter technology update we received. That's Councillor McHugh moves, Councillor Kuntz second. Councillor, any questions? Who's on first? Councillor Stedall?
Just a couple of, one item of note is now everybody can book their ice online. They don't have to come into the office, which is great news. Hopefully that increases ice bookings. But my question is in regards to the fiber installation, and I wasn't here when this project originally started, so I'm just wondering if I can get a little bit of background and why we are doing that work and not having a contractor do it.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Stell, a contractor is doing that work. And the background of all of our fiber is connecting municipal buildings together.
Okay.
And there was a business case for connecting them all rather than
The business case surrounding it has to do with security. A lot of our fiber infrastructure goes to water infrastructure, which houses our SCADA infrastructure, and we don't want that riding third-party networks.
Okay. Councillor O'Neill?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is on mobile devices, or questions.
Yeah.
Do all staff have personal site on their city phones? Is the usage checked, especially if they're over minimum data, if it's for personal usage? And is there a policy on apps not allowed to be installed on even their personal side?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor O'Neill, the current policy allows for a personal side. Staff is investigating, as we roll out the new mobile device management system, a review of that policy, so to be determined.
So right now, you can't track on their personal side if they're using certain apps that they shouldn't use at all, is my question.
Correct.
But you're looking at trying to fix that?
Correct.
Thank you.
Anything else? Councillor Card?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just had a question about the penetration testing, and if the director could speak a little bit about the zero trust security network that's kind of in place, and if we do these tests in-house or if we pay a contractor, and kind of how those are done, and a little bit about the security there.
Through Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Card, I won't go into a lot of detail in open about our security practices. It is an outside contractor that does our security pen tests. And we get them to do a mix of remote attack, local attack, email, all kinds of different stuff across the board. And our trend line is we're getting better every year. I'll go that far.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Okay, all in favor? Carried, thank you very much. Okay. Next is financial services, none. Planning and development services, none. So that's all I've got there. And then I've got resolution that council approved the changes of the Front Street Farmers Market as endorsed by the Economic Development, Tourism and Special Events Advisory Committee at the December 5th, 2023 meeting, and attached as Appendix A. So that's what I need. Mover and the seconder for that. And questions, Councillor McHugh moves. Seconder. Councillor Allier, okay. Any questions or comments? Councillor Stedall?
So just with this change that's going to happen, I'm just wondering what the advertisement is, if that's going to happen for the public.
To you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Stedall. So if this is approved through council, we'll do a lot of messaging through our social media as well as signage, because our current signage has the Saturday and the Wednesdays on it. So we'll be reaching out to have that removed, the Wednesdays.
Okay. Further?
A further question. There's going to be further consultation on this going forward. It indicates in the, can you just explain when that will happen?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Stedall. So the Farmers Market Subcommittee has met a few times and had a strategic planning session. So they have proposed, as well as endorsed through the Economic Development, Tourism and Special Events Committee, these proposed changes for 2024. But we are looking at reviewing the governance model and potentially an RFP process for 2025 and onward. Just looking at opportunities to really revitalize and improve the operations overall at the market with more vendors, and also just with more interest with market goers as well. So we thought with more focus on the Saturday market, the weekly once a week, we found that other markets concentrating on one day, just with extensive programming, that it would be more viable than going with the 2 days, with Wednesdays not being very well attended over the last few years.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Councillor Card.
Thank you, Your Worship. And it was a very good, as it mentions in the report. We had Mr. Philip Powell had a very good kind of consultant's report that he gave to the subcommittee, and there were a lot of the recommendations. Some of them were micro and some of them were more macro, like the governance, but some of those that were immediately able to be acted on, such as the hot food and that, were very well received, and some of the others have been definitely a long time coming. As a former vendor there, the Wednesday, as Linda mentioned, has not been particularly well attended, with I think less than 5% of the total signed up vendors actually attending on the Wednesday. So there's a lot of opportunities for growth, although I know some of the other local markets have struggled also, but it's I think there's a lot of opportunity for the future, and it's difficult. It's easy, I think, to get stuck in a kind of cycle where if you're struggling to attract new customers, it's very difficult to attract new vendors, and you start to lose some vendors, more customers, and it's kind of a spiral. So a lot of opportunities that he identified, and yeah, look forward to the future.
Okay. Anything else? Any other comments on the farmers market? I can tell you this much. It's you know, you go to the farmers market and you want to see fresh produce and you want to see quality. And anybody that produces that is working hard. That isn't something that you just, you know, go to the garden and pick it up. That doesn't happen, folks. Somebody has to plant it, somebody has to organize it, somebody has to weed it, somebody has to fertilize it, and somebody has to make sure that, you know, what you're growing is going to have a lasting impact on what you're doing. So if you plant radishes to begin to bloom in, which radishes will, you can plant them right now if you like in your front room, and if you got sunlight, they'll grow and you'll be able to pick the radishes and eat them and so on. But if you're going to grow for the farmers market, you've got to plant them in a systematic process. So I plant in April ones that I'm going to harvest in May. And then I plant later on ones that I'm going to harvest in June and July and so on. So you've got to have a process, and you've got to work at it. And that's exactly what you're trying to do here with this process and with the farmers market, to encourage people to produce a quality product and produce a product that will continue throughout the season. So that's exactly, and I appreciate that very much, because I know very well that in order to get people to do that, you've got to have some incentives, and that's what you're trying to do, and I thank you. Councillor Card.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say briefly, too, that I appreciate staff's work on the subcommittee and including the market vendor reps also. And to your point, actually, one of the changes that was suggested, not even by the consultant, but by the vendor reps, was the change from 8 a.m. to a 9 a.m. start on the Saturday. And that was in response to a farmer mentioning that the 8 a.m. start with the travel time and picking early in the morning, that there was a struggle to make the 8 a.m. and set up and everything. And so that was a direct farmer feedback with the 9 a.m. start. And anyway, it was done very inclusive process with all of the vendor reps and the market clerk, and I think we're on the right track.
Thank you very much. Okay. Do I need a, all in favor? I guess that's what I need. Carried. Thank you very much. Okay. Staff report, Mr. Jackson, regarding engineering services regarding sole source Hill Road Bridge. Please. We got it all, so is there anything else we need there, Director Angelo, or?
Not at all, Your Worship, unless there's some questions from council members. Mr. Jackson is here as well to answer any questions, as well as myself, that council may have.
Any questions from anyone? Councillor Ellier, you're on.
Yes, I'm going to move the resolution to support, and my main reason is, and I know I hear the gentleman's reasoning down there, and I believe we've got some emails from other sources that we should deny even fixing this bridge. My concern is that there's only one main thoroughfare in there to this subdivision. There is a lot of residents in there. We have one emergency access route, which is down near the railroad line. And it concerns me that if there was ever a derailment or a major disaster, you'd only be relying on the one access point. And I think replacing this bridge with this type of bridge, which we did on Floods Road, makes sense and a safety factor, especially when you got a major subdivision there. And hopefully we would not want to see any major catastrophe happen, but we have to think of these things down the road. And I know we did have a public meeting with some residents there, and some of them, of course, didn't want to see it closed. They wanted at least a walking access to have a better access and a safer walking area than going up and down Second Doug Hill Road. But my concern is we ever needed it for vehicular access or emergency vehicles or whatever, just relying on that one, and with the possibility of the safety, I guess, emergency one that's gated, there could be some implications from that, and that's why I would support replacing it with this type of structure. So I would move to support the resolution, and I'll leave it on the table for further debate.
Further to Councillor Ollier's remarks, sir, I would like to second this motion. 41 years with the fire department. I can tell you, and I was involved in this, unfortunately, a different municipality at the time. We have a train that runs through there on Second Doug Hill Road. If we have an emergency situation, the most direct route, and they will plan this out, and I'm sure that Inspector Reeves would agree with me in the AMSAT, they would come Wooler Road, Telephone Road, in and out of that subdivision. There's no way coming down Second Doug Hill Road. One, if they could fit under the bridge. Two, it becomes one way. And if you get at the railway crossing and the train's coming, you're going to sit there for who knows how long. So the most direct route. So I'm going to support it from an emergency standpoint. Even though it's a single lane, we can still get police, fire. And then we could have a trail derailment. We could have a major disaster on the 401. We don't know what, but we got to keep it open for an emergency route and something that completely bypasses any interference from the rail lines. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a question. If it is a safety issue, I went down and toured it, and the fence is actually locked. Why don't we open up the fence so there's two entrance exits to there?
Okay. Director Angelo, I think you were on that one.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. It's typically locked because it's just an emergency access. Fire department, emergency services can either crash the gate or cut the lock off if they need be. It's no different than other emergency accesses to subdivisions where there's over 100 homes. If those need to be opened up in emergency, then those will get opened up. The concern from residents in the subdivision, the newly built subdivision, was they didn't want through traffic coming through there on a continual basis off of Telephone Road. They wanted them using the main access. They understand certainly if there's an emergency, Hill Road could be used, an emergency, but not as a permanent access way full-time.
How many houses before 2 entrance exits are required?
Through your worship, typically as part of our review, it's really more of a fire department requirement or emergency services requirement. Anything over 100 homes requires a secondary emergency access. Not a permanent access, but a emergency access.
Thank you.
Okay, who's on next?
Yeah, I was going to comment that I agree with the comments from Councillor Elliott and Councillor McHugh. From an emergency perspective, I believe we need to replace this bridge, and this is an excellent solution as far as I'm concerned. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Card?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I was just going to, I know Director Angelo briefly touched on, but I was just going to ask him for, in respect to the public, some of the public input that we've had, could you speak a little bit about the process about weighing the walking path and some of the consultation, I guess you'd mentioned with the subdivision, if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yes, thank you. Through your worship to Councillor Card and the rest of Council. As Councillor Elliott and Councillor McHugh alluded to a bit, staff exhausted numerous options after the first tender closed at well over $1.1 million for this replacement. And at the time, Council asked staff to go back and meet with all the landowners. We had this public meeting out there. It was very conclusive that an access in this bridge replacement was something that the residents in the immediate area and residents in the Brookshire Meadow subdivision wanted to have in place. I believe it was Councillor Kosovas that also raised the concern or the comment during a council meeting that pedestrian access was certainly important to the residents in that entire community as an access between Telephone Road and the subdivision and heading south towards Dundas Street. We looked at, and Mr. Jackson's reported that in his report, numerous options, spent countless amounts of staff time looking at options, and the most viable option that fits the design criteria that we need, that fits the alignment of the roadway, is this option that he's recommending. Having said that, we did look at the option of removal of the bridge and putting cul-de-sacs at each end. There will be property required with that option, with residents probably not willing to support that. We may have to expropriate that property, and we're probably looking at an excess of $250,000, $300,000 just to do that as an option to cul-de-sac each end and remove the bridge. So in this case, noting the nature, we believe this option is the best option with keeping the bridge in place with full load carrying capacity for that area.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just had one follow-up.
Councillor Coetzee.
One follow-up question. I saw in the report that we have an allotted amount for asphalt. Are we just paving the bridge itself, or are we doing the whole road? That's all.
Through your worship to Councillor Quinte, both approaches, the roads as well, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Card.
And Director Angelo, it is correct that this is already allocated money from previous budgets and would have no levy or tax implications for next year or 2024 or anything. Is that correct?
Through your worship, that is correct, and in fact, I believe we'll be coming under budget as noted in Mr. Jackson's report.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Sharp. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know this project has been given a lot of consideration, and I do want to support the recommendation of staff and the comments made by the councillors, Councillor Allier and Councillor McHugh as well, particularly with safety, but also the consultation and the pedestrian interest in the walkways and the safety. And so I will be supporting the motion, and I want to thank the staff for all of the considerations that they went through in the options, and this is the best one. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't disagree. All in favor is what I need to know. Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, the next one is the staff report, Director Angelo, regarding the IRS R&D Group Automated Road Patrol Agreement. Need a mover and a seconder to get it on the table. Councillor Quince, Councillor Sharp. Okay, we're on. Director Angelo.
Thank you, Worship. And just briefly for Council, last year we entered into a demonstration agreement with IRIS. A lot of you that may have been to the Good Roads Conference over the years had seen their booths displayed. This is really, after a lot of years of research, and I'm talking the last 4 or 5 years of research into a sort of digital AI type of road patrol software system that would provide staff the ability to issue work orders to lead hands to complete our minimum standards obligations and minimum maintenance standards obligations. Really, we found this one, after consultation with a number of municipalities, to fit all of our needs. We entered into this demonstration project with them last year as a bit of a trial to ensure that they would connect and link in with our Go Evo mesh work order system that we are using throughout the water, wastewater, parks divisions, our fleet management system, and our customer service inquiries that get issued into a work order system through mesh. Wanted to make sure that they could integrate well into that system. And by the time the trial was completed, they had worked well with the integration of that process. Typically in the past, when the patrolman's going down the road, he would write on a piece of paper the deficiencies on that section of picking up potholes, deficient signs, lightings, etc. What this system does is a camera in the patrol truck, and it picks up all those deficiencies for us. So there's no questions about what is missed or what's not missed. It actually tells staff whether a road is missed in this patrol. It tells us when a work order is issued, the length of time that needs to be repaired in accordance with how many days that pothole has to be repaired, if that's an example of one of them. So it fits in well with ensuring our liability and our minimum maintenance obligations are met, as well as reduces our risk and enhances our risk management for our road system. And with that in mind, I'd be happy to entertain any questions that council may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Stedall?
Just a few questions. First of all, the cost of it is very expensive, $84,000 a year for just per year, and I'm guessing that even though we're entering into one-year contract, once we enter into this, is that it's going to be something that's probably going to roll every year, and it won't be something that it's a one-time or an upfront cost. This is an annual fee that we'd be paying for. Is that correct?
Yes, through your worship, it's if you've had a chance to look through the agreement, it's based on the kilometers of roads that we have. And it's the same rate across Ontario for all member municipalities that want to partake in this agreement. So in this case, it's a per kilometer cost, and our cost works out to about $84,000 annually.
And just further to that, so my understanding of the software, it's put in the trucks, and as they drive, they collect they collect the data, and if they do find some of these deficiencies, the repairs can be done a little sooner. So the potential is that we would have savings in liability costs. I don't know if it's going to affect our insurance costs in particular, but it could potentially reduce any claims that we have.
Through Richard, that is certainly the expectation that. Because as you can imagine, in the past, a patrol person would be driving down the road, would have to pull over to mark down on a sheet of paper a deficiency, for instance, like a pothole that exceeds a standard. What this system does is the driver just has to drive down the road. The camera will pick up the depth and the surface area of the pothole, compare it to the minimum standard, and if it exceeds the standard, we'll issue a work order directly at that time frame to the supervisor that can then have the staff fix it within a certain amount of allotted time that's required. So our goal is that this will reduce our liability.
Okay, and then just a final follow-up. So there'll be a historical, the longer we have this in place, we'll be able to see if there are specific road sections, that constantly have these deficiencies, so we know that they should be placed higher up on the repair list, and we'll actually have some data that we can base new road repairs on.
Through your worship, that is correct, yes.
Thank you.
And hopefully money comes with it. Councillor Quince.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. That was one of my questions, the money. So this amount of money was already included in our operational budget?
Yes.
or we're adding to our operational budget with this amount of money? And then I have a follow-up question.
Through your worship, the answer is yes. It was been included in there and identified specifically as that additional line item for council's consideration when the operation budget was approved.
Thank you. And then you mentioned about the work order is going to go to your supervisor, and because this is all new, how is the supervisor reporting to you on how the process is working as we acquire the system and we start to work with it? Are you going to be? Is this something that you're going to be having right on top of every day, or once a week, or at the end of the month, your team's going to come and let you know how things are going?
Through your worship, in fact, I don't even need to consult them. I can look on the
Perfect.
system
Even better.
and they'll tell me what's compliant, what's not compliant, what's past due, and then I can talk to the managers about how come those things aren't getting addressed. So.
Thank you very much.
Okay, before you leave this, the material we use to fill that pothole, fantastic product, isn't it? What's the warranty on that? Never mind.
10 minutes. The next rainstorm.
Councillor Armstrong.
When it's collecting that data, is it reevaluating your list of priorities? Say road number 1 is on the top, and all of a sudden this one can replace it? Is it constantly updating that way?
It is. So through your worship, as you can imagine, the minimum maintenance standards set up by the province in about 15 years ago sets out 5 or 6 classes of roads. Dundas Street, Highway 2 being a Class 1 road. So that has to be patrolled once every 3 days. It also says that if you find a pothole that exceeds a standard, it has to be fixed within a certain amount of time. I believe it's 7 days. So this tells me if the pothole is identified, the work order is issued to staff. If that work order is not completed within 7 days, I get notification, and the supervisor gets notification of why that was never done. So then we can monitor that compliance on a continual basis.
And it's used all year long?
All year round, yes. And as well, this will be used for sidewalks inspections. This will be used for identifying street lights that are out in the middle of the night. There's a whole range of minimum standards obligations that this will meet.
Thank you. 2003 is when we started with minimum maintenance standards. Councillor Card, you're on next, or Councillor Boyce? Okay, Councillor Boyce.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. 2 questions. How many vehicles will we have this on?
It's 1 camera and 1 vehicle.
Oh, okay, 1 camera and 1 vehicle. And can you explain? And I think it's really interesting. I remember the old system where the staff had to pull over, write it down, and often things were missed, like especially missing signs. This will pick up on missing signs. And the other thing that I found kind of interesting is that it'll be able to identify graffiti as well. And you know, a vehicle will drive by and an underpass or wherever, and they'll be able to pick up graffiti and then send that in to get repaired. That's correct?
Through worship, that is correct. If you look at page 2 of my report, I gave you 2 examples of the screenshots I took of the system. So the one is really of the first work order of a deficiency on Foxborough Sterling Road. But if you look at the sort of the second screenshot, it gives you, and you look at the 5th one down, the sign, the ineligible sign, they can't read it. So that's what the camera's picking up. So now my staff get those exact coordinates to go out and repair that, and they have so much time to do that.
It's incredible what can get done.
The technology that's out there these days, this is fantastic, and nothing else meets or even gets close to this technology that's out there.
So just before you leave this, when I pulled back from Morris Street onto Loyalist Road, there's a sign just to the east of me, and it hasn't been repaired for a long time. So once we get this started, I'll expect to see that sign repaired. Councillor Card.
Thank you, Your Worship. I thought the amount of money was a little bit of sticker shock initially, but then I thought about the productivity gains that you must be expecting. So if there was just a road patroller writing this down by hand, I mean, do you expect to be able to cover twice as much ground, or are there estimates on? I imagine they could cover so much more roads and infrastructure on any given day that they're not stopping and doing that. And then also too, I guess if there's going to be a storage and kind of an interface program for the data on the repairs, that would have to be a huge advancement to be able to see expectations of timeline for fixed potholes and what's holding up and what isn't and what needs to be looked at more often. And it seems like it opens up a lot of possibilities.
It definitely does, absolutely.
Councillor O'Neill, you're on next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Director of Finance. Do you have a rough idea of the claims for pothole damage that we have, the number and the amount for the year? Even if it's rough? And potentially what we could save?
Potholes are
I know it's out of the blue, but I'm just wondering, that could probably potentially save us a lot of money too.
Yeah, through your worship, it could. I don't have the number offhand.
Well, you can get it, I know you can, but that's not for tonight. But we'll either get it back or have it for next meeting, whatever works, or both. Okay?
Your
Good
worship.
question. Good. Yep, Councillor Boyce.
One further question. If we had decided to go with maybe an additional vehicle, did we get a cost involved? It's probably less than what the initial cost is.
Yes, Your Worship, through you, I did ask the question about an additional camera for a sidewalk machine, and it was something around $25,000 to $30,000 just for that.
That's something perhaps for next year's budget then to consider.
I will consider that in future budgets. Right now, the technology is not 100% in picking up what I need it to pick up in terms of deformities for sidewalks. But every day that AI technology is changing. So they're working on all that and that technology, so hopefully that'll come in place. In addition, they're also looking at improving the technology to do the sign reflectivity. Because right now the technology is not there, but they're hopeful by the end of this year, stop signs, yield signs have to meet a reflectivity requirement. If they don't, you need to replace those stop signs and yield signs. So I'm hopeful that by the end of this year, that technology will be there to pick that up. So.
Okay, anything else? Councillor Card?
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. I was just going to say briefly, I'd be very, very interested in seeing a follow-up report in the future years with the sidewalk technology, and if there's an argument to be made that the sidewalk patroller, as it were, can finish their yearly rounds in half the time and go on to other stuff, that could be a very good investment. So I'd certainly like to see that in future years too.
Through your worship, I'd be happy towards the end of this year presenting council with a bit of an update report of where we're at, showing you a bit of a demonstration of how this camera works, some of the work orders that get issued, the completion of the work orders, tracking all that, how that's all done digitally as well. So I'd be happy to do that later part of this year.
So can we hold you to a date, say October? Sometime in October meeting?
I would think so, yes.
Thank you. Yep. Great. Anything else? Anybody else? Anybody else? All in favor? Thank you. And okay, so I got nothing for fire and emergency, nothing for correspondence. Okay, so proclamations is that Council proclaim March 4 to 10, 2024 as 28th Annual Violence Awareness and Random Acts of Kindness Week in the city of Quinte West, and further that the Quinte West sign and the Veteran Skyway Bridge be illuminated in the color blue from March the 4th to the 10th, 2024, pending on scheduling conflicts, and proclamation Violence Awareness and Random Acts of Kindness Week, March the 4th to the 10th. Okay, moved by Councillor McHugh. Seconder. Let's get somebody else in here. I just got the same ones. Okay, all right, Councillor Sharp, thank you. No, yeah, I know, I'm not, yeah, right. What do I do? I'm in the wrong. All in favor? That's what I need. Thank you. Okay, anybody want to say anything about that one? I think it's very important, but anybody comment before we leave it? Okay. You're on if you want to. Anybody? Councillor Armstrong?
That's related to the fight kid, right? The son from March break in Florida. Is that?
Yes.
That's the story behind that.
Right. That stems from, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But we've had others since then too, so, yeah. Okay, then the next one is a proclamation from Toby Toth, I think is President of Business and Professional Women's of Hastings in Prince Edward County, requesting council proclaim the month of February 2024 as Black History African Heritage Month in the city of Quinte West. So whereas the resolution, whereas the Ontario Black History Society, established in 1978, successfully petitioned the City of Toronto to proclaim February 1979 the first Black History Month in the province, then later Queen's Park for provincial recognition in 1993, and subsequently the federal government, such that February 1996 was the first Black History Month recognized across Canada, which followed a motion introduced by the Honourable Jean Augustine, the first Black Canadian woman elected to Parliament, but which was not fully completed until the Senate adopted in March of 2008, the month of Senator Donald Oliver, the first Black man appointed to the Senate. And whereas the Black History Month is a time to build greater understanding by community recognition of hard historical truths and of the persistent discrimination and marginalization faced by citizens of Black heritage and by their ancestors, so that we may collectively work to dismantle these impediments to equity and fair community. And whereas this is also a time for celebrating the many achievements and contributions of the citizens of Quinte West of African heritage and Black Canadians and members of Black cultural communities with rich ethnic histories the world over, who have done and continue to be so much to make Quinte West a vibrant, prosperous, and welcoming place to live, work, and play. And whereas this, Quinte West is committed to equity, inclusion, and diversity as it works to build and support a healthier, connected community. Thank you very much. Okay. Therefore, be it resolved, the City of Quinte West does hereby proclaim the month of February 2024 to be recognized as Black History African Heritage Month, and further that the Quinte West sign in the Veteran Skyway Bridge be illuminated in the color green for the month of February 2024, pending on scheduling conflicts. And a proclamation, Black History African Heritage Month, February 2024. All in favor? Question or comment? All in favor?
No, we haven't got moved.
Oh, okay. Councillor Stedall moves. Councillor Sharp seconds. Great. Any other comments? Councillor Armstrong?
Could we fix the two typos in that?
Yeah, they can fix those, yeah. My reading didn't help in any, but they can fix that, yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Councillor Sharp?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, our Equity, Diversity, and Cultural Committee has not met, and we have an upcoming meeting, but they certainly are involved with the community. I know from the feedback within emails to the committee, there's great support for declaring this month, and I just want to comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I agree. Anything else? Any other? All in favor? Thank you. Carried. Okay. Now we got correspondence for printed and non-printed. Any comments or questions on the, okay, Councillor Quincy?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to comment on the minutes from the Lower Trent Conservation Authority that they squeezed in their budget, but they also, in doing so, had to chop off a staff position or two to make it happen, which is going to create all kinds of challenges. And this, in my opinion, is all coming from the province of Ontario placing more and more demands on conservation authorities and not providing funding to be able to properly function, which of course places it all on the municipalities to pick up the slack, which is in part a reasoning for a tax increase in the city of Quinte West. Quinte Conservation, which is the board I sit on, also has many of the exact same challenges, but the Quinte Conservation budget wasn't quite as big. It was an increase, but not quite as big as what Lower Trent was being forced to propose. And so I do want to commend Councillor Ellier and Councillor Reid for their work on Lower Trent Conservation to do their utmost best to make it happen. And I know it was not easy with Quinte West Council's request to put a cap on the dollar values. But so thank you very much, Councillor Reid and Councillor Elliott, for your hard work.
I'll go Councillor Stedall, then Councillor O'Neill.
And I just want to echo exactly what Councillor Quinte just indicated, is thank you very much to our councillors and the representation and bringing it back. It looks like from the minutes that it was a tough fight and lots of discussion, so we appreciate the work that was done. Thank you.
I too, they were going for an 18.8% increase, and it was brought down by 5.5%, and it was because of the votes of Councillor Elliott and Reid that the other didn't get passed, so thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay. And printed and non-printed are received, I guess. I
Need a mover and seconder, Mr. Mayor.
Mover and seconder, okay. Resolution that the printed correspondence, council information be received and filed. Councillor McHugh and Councillor Stedall. Okay, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Now I'm at, I guess you'd have to be where we're pretty close to any notices of motion. That's all I've got, I guess. Notice of motion, Council Stedall, amend, yeah. Whereas amend the retention periods for certain documents and records to be kept by the corporation of the City of Quinte. Resolution as amended provides that a municipality or a local board hereby may only destroy a record in accordance with retention periods established by the municipality. So, yeah, it's there. So, how long? It doesn't matter to us. I don't think how long it is. Doesn't matter to me, anyways. Council approve a record retention period for 5 streamed council meeting recordings of 3 years. Wow. Okay. We'll be dead, but that's okay. Councillor Stedall.
Thank you. I just wanted to talk to this, and the reason I'm requesting that we change it from our 1-year retention to our 3-year is that I struggle as a new councillor with some of the information that was presented, and we talk about it, some of the reports, one of the reports we just talked about tonight about in regards to the bridge, to get the background information because it's gone now. So even right now, you know, we can't see anything that actually has happened with the previous council. So in moving forward, I don't know if 3 years is long enough, but I would at least hope that we could have that. It's the minutes that are written for a council meeting are different from minutes that are written for a planning meeting. They are not as detailed. There's not the discussion back and forth like we're having right now. This probably will not, this discussion I'm having right now will not get recorded in the minutes. But if somebody does watch the video, then they can actually see what the you know, people are talking about. And some of our votes, if they're not recorded, votes, then it's just all in favor, and you can't tell if there are people that are voting against it. So with the video, you can get a little bit more. I've said 3 years. That's my motion. I mean, I'm open if anybody is interested in increasing that beyond, because I understand there is not really that much additional cost in order to keep the video footage.
Well, I also think that the way you vote, unless it's a recorded vote, it's still an option. It's not stone, carved in stone. Anyways.
I'll second
okay.
Councillor
Second
Stedall's
3
motion.
years?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Councillor Sharp.
Councillor Sharp. So I have a mover and a seconder for 3 years. Go ahead. Go ahead, Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to speak in favor. I was going to suggest 2, but I'm happy with 3 if funds and ability or capacity are able to do so. You know, I guess we're in a new world and everyone looks at the videos, but I always believe that the minutes are the most important because those are the record of what we do. But I also understand that people like to go back and you know, have a look at what was said and how it was said and the tone and all the details. So I'm happy to support that. Thank you.
Councillor O'Neill.
I've got a question under procedure. If this is a notice of motion, does it not have to be voted on at the next meeting and not this meeting?
Yes, it does.
Through you to Councillor O'Neill. So because we received this notice of motion before the deadline of the publication of the agenda and it appeared on the agenda, this can be considered at this meeting in accordance with our procedural bylaw.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to comment that there have been some issues where I also myself personally wanted to go back and check out some of the minutes, and if I didn't quite comprehend what my recollections of the meeting were from the minutes, then it would have been really handy to go to a video to view it. So other than that, then I have to either go to some of the councillors that were at the meeting and or staff members to verify what I thought was happening or didn't think what was happening. So I think this is a good idea. And I know that our past councillor, Terry Cassidy, he was also in favor of keeping meeting videos for a longer period of time for the exact same reasons we're talking about here today. Thanks.
Okay. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, that's, I'm at any other business is where I am. Any other business? Councillor O'Neill?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Director Jardine. I know there's two sides to every story, but I'm concerned about Mr. Herm's comments under public input about the parking lot. It's my understanding that no work can be done that affects drainage or anything else unless it's approved by the city. And if it does affect drainage, or if it did affect drainage, do we not have the obligation to go back and make the property owner make it right so the drainage issues don't occur?
Through your worship to Councillor O'Neill. So obviously, as the gentleman mentioned, this property is going through a site plan. So there is a, while it is acknowledged, I acknowledge it's taking a very long time to get there. There is a plan to fully grade the site out, to plant a buffer of trees, and to make sure the drainage works according to the engineering plan. Now, definitely the new property owner has gone in and done some work in advance of that design. And we're working with them to get them to the point where they can finish the site properly and remove any of those issues. When it comes to the issue around directing drainage onto properties, the way that works is you have to differentiate between directly directing water. So, for instance, I guess the more common practice would be where somebody locates a sump pump or relocates a downspout or something like that and takes a specific action to specifically direct it onto neighbouring property. We have bylaws that cover that. When it comes to flow from one property, basically just sheet flow from one property to the other, the bylaws don't cover that. That's dealt with through our site plan process and grading the site out properly. So I definitely to the gentleman's comments on, we'll speak to staff, see exactly where we're at with that site plan and try and move it forward so that the property is properly graded, deal with any drainage issues and install the tree buffer as proposed.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, anything else? Oh, no, Councillor Stedall.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to speak to the communications that have been received with regards to findings of the Integrity Commission at our last council meeting. There was an article in the paper, and I thank the community press for publishing the comments from Kathy Armstrong, and I feel that she is correct in some of her statements. Mayor Harrison confirmed that he breached our code of conduct and that he would forego the remuneration as recommended by the Integrity Commissioner. However, he was not given the opportunity to apologize to Kathy Armstrong. And as leaders of this great community called Quinte West, I think we need to make it clear, regardless of whether we vote on it or not, that there was disrespect shown and a full apology is warranted to the member of public. So I would request at some point in time that our mayor give consideration for an apology to Kathy Armstrong.
Thank you. Anything else? Anything else? Councillor Card.
I just had, I didn't think about this, thank you, Your Worship, when we were having the debate, but was it Councillor Stedall's intention that the live streamed recordings remain available publicly on YouTube for 3 years, not just recorded in the city's servers, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's what I presumed. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Otherwise, I need a confirmation.
Just before we need a mover and a seconder to approve the bylaws on the agenda.
Oh, right, sorry, yeah, bylaws be written the first, second, and third time and approved so I can sign them. Need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Coonsey, Councillor Elliott. Any comments on bylaws? Comments or questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Any, and corporate services, there's one more left here. They authorize a corporation of the city of Quinte West to enter into a minor variance agreement with James Kenneth Carlisle, minor variance application A923F, and 24-012, James Kenneth Carlisle, minor variance agreement bylaw. Need a move and a second of Councillor McHugh and Councillor Armstrong. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Thank you. Okay, two for, need two for confirmation. And Councillor Card and Councillor Boyce, all in favor, and two for adjournment. That's it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.